In life and in work, we have unlimited options. We don't like to think about it that way, but we have a whole bunch of options to explore. This week, we're starting a new topic: how to explore options. All that and more coming up next on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning, Bob. How are you this morning?
I'm good, except I forgot the topic and forgot to include it. Today's challenges, right?
The challenges of exploring options, correct.
Okay. Totally couldn't remember. Sometimes we do it one way, sometimes we do it another, and I couldn't remember which flavor we chose today, so I just went without it.
And everything was okay, right?
It's Monday.
Yes, it is Monday. And good morning and welcome to today's Antidote, everyone. Our daily, weekday broadcast where we have a conversation around a topic. As Bob mentioned, partially, our topic this week is exploring options. And today we're going to discuss the challenges. So as we go through that conversation, if you have thoughts or ideas that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the comments of whatever social media you happen to be following us on, whether it is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live, baby.
Yes, LinkedIn Live, baby. We welcome those thoughts and ideas because we know that it'll add value to our show. And as we conclude our conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, or today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you when you're stuck, maybe today, or maybe somewhere down the line, and you can't figure out your next step. So it will help you take that step and move forward and closer to your desired results. If you have one thing, of course, we welcome you to share that.
You looked lost there for a second.
I don't know. I guess I was thinking about something else and just.
You usually do this with such, yeah.
Anyhow, we'll get to that conversation in just a minute because every day on our show, we start out with celebrations. Bob, do you want to share why we do celebrations? Monday morning's a good time to talk about that. And then maybe share what you're celebrating.
I would be happy to, Tom. I would be thrilled. So celebrations get us in the right frame of mind. So often we worry about the results of our actions. We don't worry about, the act of taking the action. So for instance, last week I made a decision about something and I took an action that has financial consequences and also has great opportunity. Rather than worry about the result, I'm celebrating today the fact that I took that action. I took a decisive step to build my business in a way that I haven't in the past. And so I'm celebrating that step, not the results. The results are going to come over time, and I can't really control the results a bit, but not completely. Does that make sense?
It does. Very well done. And congratulations on taking this important thing to do.
How about you? What celebrate you today?
So my celebration is yesterday I had the chance to officiate sort of my first youth or boys lacrosse game.
Whoa.
So, yes.
You mean with the normal rules?
With the other rules. And there was even other rules because it was a league in Delaware that wants to try it's indoors. So they want to try the sixes game in lacrosse, which is a new sort of spin-off off of the traditional game. And it is the game that they are hoping will be a part of the 2028 Olympics. And so there are places that are just trying to figure it out. And as officials, there haven't been a whole lot of opportunities. I've done it a couple of times on the girls and women's side. And the goal, I think, is that this new sport will be something that anyone could officiate, male or female, because the rules are the the administration of the rules are very similar, and they're trying to create something that anybody watching it could say, oh, I know what that call was. I know what this rule is. Not, well, it's this for men and it's that for women. And not that the field game, the tens, or the game that we know in the United States will change. This is just another option, another way to play it. And so they had both boys and girls games. And so I hopped on a couple of boys games, which was interesting and fun all at the same time. So just expanded my perception of knowledge and experience and perception of the game of lacrosse.
Is this what we called when we were kids box lacrosse?
It has components of box lacrosse. It has components of the traditional lacrosse. So it's kind of a way to, the Olympics is looking for small teams, fast action, lots of scoring, and games that can be held in about an hour block.
Okay.
And that's what they were trying. That's what they tried to create. They played it for the first time on a world stage at the World Games. It's late July, August down in Alabama. And I think the hope is that that they will turn it into that it'll become an Olympic sport for 2028 when we're in Los Angeles. I think it's Los Angeles.
Yes, it is Los Angeles. Wow. Look at you at the forefront of sports. Could you be an official at the Olympics potentially?
There's potential for that. There's a couple of other steps I would have to take. And I would imagine that there are a lot of people who would be very interested in doing that. So the competition to be a part of it, I think, would be fairly stiff. Although, again, there's not a lot of options yet for it. There's a number of international.
If you take the steps, you could get there, right?
If I took the steps, I have a chance to get there. That's correct. And that's a thought that's in my head.
Oh, that's exciting. Wow. Yeah. It's funny how you surprise me sometimes with these things.
Well, I like to keep you on your toes.
Indeed. All right.
Because it's always good to explore the options that we have. I could have sat on the sidelines yesterday and just done the girls' games.
Right.
And, I explored that option. I said, it'd be interesting to do this. And I think that's one of the beautiful things. And one of the things we're going to talk about this week is in our lives, as you mentioned in the opening, there are lots of opportunities that are in front of us, lots of options for us to consider. And while that provides amazing opportunities, there are some obstacles and challenges around that. So do you want to share a little bit of your thoughts about the challenges around exploring options, Bob?
Sure. I think, first of all, it's gathering all the options. We live in a world now where we have so much technology and so much access to information. Sometimes, I remember when I was a kid or when I started my career, as a newspaper reporter, you could only access information primarily by phone, if you were lucky, by fax, or you had to go to the courthouse and get the court records, or go to the police office and get the records. Now it's all done electronically. So there's so much information coming at us that I think that makes it more complicated. We have more options than ever. Think of restaurants. You can go to Google and type in restaurants near me and see 52 restaurants within 5 miles of where you are in almost any part of the US. Well, that's a lot of restaurants to consider, 52. And that's probably a low number in some cities. And it makes it harder to have all those options available, and also to distill those options into the ones that matter. Let's use the restaurant analogy. It's Friday night. I want to go to a restaurant. I want live music. Okay, that narrows it. But if you just go, I want to go to a restaurant on Friday night, I don't know if I want Mexican food, Italian food, American food, fast American, fast casual, a breakfast at dinner time. There are all those choices. And I think we become paralyzed with choices. Paralysis by analysis can happen. We spend a lot of time thinking about things instead of acting. And as you and I both know, it's the next step that gets you where you're going, whether or one way or another gets you closer where you want to go. And if you take no steps, you will go nowhere. I guarantee if you don't take a step today, if you stand still right now for the rest of the day, you will not go anywhere. You will be right where you started. I can give you great certainty about that. And so having all those steps to take, should I go east, west, north, south? That can be overwhelming to a lot of us. And I find at times that really gets me. The other thing that gets me is the fear of making the wrong step. I'm choosing among the options. Well, what if I made the wrong choice? You asked me earlier before the program about a choice I made over the last couple of days. How was I feeling about it? There's some fear. There's absolutely some fear. And that's a good thing, a certain amount of fear, but not enough fear to cause me to stop. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I think there's many obstacles that stand in our way from even. That's interesting. I'm going to take that back. There's not a lot of obstacles standing in our way to explore our options, and I think that that's a great thing. It's a great opportunity. The internet provides you. I want to go to a conference to help me focus on this business skill set. You probably find 100 of them. And, or I want to say, I want to go to this training. I want to learn more about Microsoft Word or Google Excel or Microsoft Excel or PowerPoint or web design or any of that. There are plenty of workshops, trainings, coaches, consultants, you name it. There's opportunities for you to figure that out. And so I think the options in front of us are enormous. I think when we're exploring them, though, too often we're too broad in our search. And so that gives us way too many options. It's funny. I'm a house person. I like to look at what houses are for sale for whatever reason. And in the reality of the world of houses that I could purchase, my search right now is like, just because I put it out there at one point, it's like anything up to 1.5, up to $1 million, I think. I can't afford right now $1 million house. And yet I enjoy seeing like what's out there and what does $1 million house look like. Yet that's going to make me making a choice much more difficult. Because I now have, that has been all wrapped into all of the things that I might consider an option. And all the things that, wow, this is a really cool feature of this house. How can I find that in a $400,000 house or a $500,000 house? And so I think that's part of the challenge of exploring your options is you see all the possibilities. When in reality, many of the possibilities are out of the realm of the consideration that you really can make. Because at some point there are some limit to the resources that we have, whether it's time, money, whatever interest, knowledge, all of those things. And so we often, I find, explore the broad rather than considering like, okay, what are the true limits to my resources that could be allowed? Like you talked about restaurants. Yeah, I could search for all the restaurants. And likely you're going to find some in there that are 5-star restaurants that you're like, yeah, I wasn't really looking to spend $100 on a plate or $150 on a plate. Yet that's in my consideration. And so now I have to look at all of those options. And I think that's one of the reasons we get stuck is we start exploring before we set the parameters. And I think we'll talk more about that this week. And I think that that's one of the challenges is we like to know the options, even though many of those options we would likely never choose.
Yes. I was talking to someone last week who had to make a choice about something, and I asked them about their process, and they explained to me that they asked everyone what they thought. And there were probably 10, 15 opinions that this person had gathered. And at the end, they said, I really need to make this decision on my own. And I thought that was kind of interesting with all that feedback that you've got 15 data points. How do you make that decision? And I think that's part of, exploring the options is what are you trying to accomplish? Because opinions are easy to come by.
Sure.
You can ask people. People will volunteer their opinions. You can ask for their opinions. You can see their opinions. Social media gives us a great opportunity to share our opinions, even when they're not solicited. And I think that can be another factor, a challenge in choosing an option is you get so much feedback from people that, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you got to do this. Oh, Tom, you definitely want to buy $1 million house because prices are really down now, and that's going to double, and that could be your retirement fund. Or someone else, Tom, don't buy a house no matter what you do. The prices are so overinflated. I'm sure there are 10 realtors already like priming themselves to be like, I got to track down Tom Brush today and see if I can talk to him about this.
Sure.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I and again, I've been talking about it, so I'm sure my computer will now Facebook all of the ads that I'll see are all about purchasing houses or from realtors,
which will make the application of your options even harder because now you're getting more information.
Certainly.
I don't think we live in a time now where we get too much, or we get more information than we need to make most decisions.
Well, and I think oftentimes that's our choice. And I think that's one of the challenges. We want to know all the options, even though we likely aren't going to consider many of them, truly consider them. We just want to be able to say, now I know all the things that are in front of me. And we kind of wish that, right? If you're looking for a job, you want to be sure that you've explored all your options before you choose another one. Or if you're a business owner and you're like, I need to buy a new computer. Okay, well, how many? I want to make sure that I explore every possible thing, even things that I don't really understand, that are going to likely confuse me more than help me make a decision.
So what's your one? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, no, that's okay. I was going to
ask you what your one thing was today. You seem like you're in the zone.
So I think that when I think about the challenges of exploring options is that last piece that I talked about is for some reason, we desire to know all the options because we don't want to miss out on one that might be the quote unquote right one. And in doing that, I think that we provide too many options, which leaves us right back where we were, usually as overwhelmed, stuck, frustrated, and uncertain what to do, because now we are, again, worried about, with all these options, how do I make sure I choose the one that's going to be most effective for me? Which is the way I would say it. Most people would say, how am I going to make sure I choose the right one or that I don't choose the wrong one? Which now becomes a judgment about, now becomes the results, is all about results, and we can't control that.
I think my one thing would be I'm trying very hard to divorce the idea of the results from the decision to take that step, and really trying to just say, okay, at the moment, this made the most sense as the step to take. So I'm going to take this step and the results will work themselves out. And, I could give you all the examples where the results didn't work out the way I expected. And I could also, if I took the time, give you all the examples where the results were far greater than my expectations. And I think in the end, it balances out, but we tend to focus on the ones that don't work out more so than the ones that do. And I think that creates its own challenge when we're choosing options. Because last time I picked a job, I thought I was going to be there for 5 years, but it turned out the boss was a jerk. And I'm worried about the boss being a jerk at this new job. You can't really know. In a 1 hour, 2 hour interview, you just can't.
And I think when you talk about, when you get into the conversation about good, bad decisions, it's all about a judgment. Mm-hmm. And when it's a judgment, now you can start to just get frustrated, or you can go to either side. You can either be overly frustrated, or you can be, oh my God, that was the best decision I ever made. And until at some point it's not. And I think so often that judgment slows us down from learning. You can walk into a situation that, okay, I thought I was going to be at a job for 5 years. Well, that's what I thought on the day that I made the decision. A lot of things have changed in that time that you maybe now are choosing to do something different. And if all we think about is, well, wow, my expectation was to be here for 5 years, and now I'm not, so that was a poor decision, you're going to miss out on the opportunity to understand and to learn what are all the things that I did gain from that experience.
Hey, Tom, I don't know if you saw this morning, but on our Facebook Ring of Renegades group, there's a really interesting poll going on today. Do you make your bed or not?
Oh,
you see
fascinating.
That?
I did not see it yet this morning.
And there are actually companies that will hire people, and that's one of the questions they ask in interviews. Yeah.
Well,
yes.
Okay.
It's one of the popular questions in interviewing these days.
Because
so if you're wondering, if you make your bed, are you wondering if you're the only one? Go to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, join, and you can find out. Or if you're someone who never makes your bed and you want to know if you're with the gang, go to that poll and you can see the results. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I am looking at it right now, and it's a little surprising, I got to say. I wasn't expecting it to be the way it is. There's also the third category, sometimes. So if you haven't been to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, I recommend that you go there and you can find out things like, do people make their beds? What do you think, Tom? Do you make your bed each day?
No. Sometimes.
Just someone else?
Sometimes.
Okay. I make it every morning.
Yeah, it's interesting that you would say that that's part of a job interview. Like, I would go back to that person. Why does that matter?
I would argue that demonstrates discipline. This morning I got up, made the bed right before I went for a run, and came back from my run, went into the bedroom. It's like, the bed's made. This feels good.
Maybe it's over worrying about small details. That's the thing is, I think that when you ask like questions like that, you are already deciding what the value of the results, right? In some ways.
I would argue making the bed isn't so much about the result as much as the discipline to do it each day.
That's
like the
your
person who gets up every morning and exercises.
That's your perspective.
Discipline, right?
Those are all your perspective.
Yeah.
So now you're making a judgment on someone based on your knowledge, experience, and perspective. That's what you believe. I believe it has absolutely nothing to do with what I do at work. That's my belief. And so asking questions like that are, I don't know. To me, I don't know the value of that, except you are judging someone, evaluating someone based on your knowledge, experience, and perspective, which kind of closes you off to seeing new perspectives.
Who'd have thought there'd be a healthy debate between you and me at 21 minutes in today about a topic unrelated to our main topic?
Shocking, huh? I just think it's an interesting thing to consider.
Today's antidote takes a turn.
Well, I think that's one of the things. So it kind of is like that. You have an option as someone who's hiring. Like, what are the questions that I'm going to ask? And I think that sometimes we are looking for a result based on our knowledge, experience, and perspective. So we because I would imagine, unless you just ask, well, why? To me, if you ask that question, the follow-up question for me would be,
why?
Why do you think you do that?
Yeah.
Because to me, it doesn't matter whether they make their bed or not. It matters to me is how they see that, if they even consider it, as it relates to the rest of the way. Do you believe that leads to the rest of the way you do things?
Right.
Which, again, in my mind, means that the people who are asking that question are expecting an answer. They think there's a right or wrong answer, quote unquote.
I certainly don't. I mean, make your bed, don't make your bed. I just think it's an interesting data point. Just like, did you play competitive sports? I think that's a really good question to ask as well, because I think it gets at a temperament. They've probably been yelled at before and they've survived it. And in talking about competitive sports, I interviewed someone and they said they played competitive sports and they played they played high level golf. And we were talking about golf and, the pressure that it's all on you, that you're going to the 17th hole and you're up by 2 and you can't screw up versus a team sport. And hearing that discussion really did color how that person was perceived by the people who interviewed him, because it was like, wow, this guy is really an individualist. He's not a team player. Because he said, I would not want to be in a team where we all were dependent on each other to score a certain score. It's like, okay, that's good to know.
As it related to that one example, I think that the challenge with that is you were setting an expectation, your expected results. Oh, okay. Just because I played a team sport, I'm going to be great in teams. There are a lot of teammates that I had. Yeah, they played a team sport. They were not great teammates. And, I just think that sometimes again, if you go in it just to what was the value you found in that? I think so often we feel like we go in, well, I want to hire somebody who's been in a team sport, because if they've been in an individual sport, they haven't been part of a team. They don't. Well, maybe they weren't part of a team in that individual sport. They were part of a team in something else. So have you just discounted all the other experience and knowledge that they have based on one point?
I have fired Tom up this morning. Wow.
It's interesting. It's not our topic, but the topic around.
Well, it is about choosing options, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
about the questions you ask in interviews. It's also about how you respond to them.
And why are you asking them?
Right. And I think it's a case study in what we're really talking about.
Because I think sometimes people ask those questions because they have a perceived right answer in their head that they're looking for, rather than I'm asking that question just to learn.
Right. And I've seen it go both ways. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's, I don't know, you can have a whole topic conversation around that, because I think that we get caught in.
We'll have to do a series on interviewing down the road.
Because usually if you're asking those questions, you're looking for someone like the person you just had, or not like the person you just had, which means you're kind of closed off to somebody who might be just like that person in some ways and completely different in others. So I think if you're asking the question to learn about why they value whatever their answer is, that's one thing. If you're asking it to get the result that you expect, that's a different thing.
I agree with that. All right. Wow. That came out of left field, but here we have it. Some free advice on
that's what was real for me this morning.
That's it. Same here.
All right, everyone. If you have your one thing, or you want to chime in on our conversation about the options you have when making and having interviews, please feel free to share those as well. And if you're on the podcast, we know, sadly, there is no place to put your comments. So you can go to our Ringer Renegades Facebook group and share them there. We'll be talking about exploring options all week long. I'm sure it'll be a great conversation, and we want to make sure that you have the option to share your value in that, as well as also gathering some value that might really help you as you try to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside our Ringer Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote. And who knows, the last 7 minutes might be unique, different from what they are typically. So we look forward to seeing you then. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. It's worth it. Even when you disagree with your friend, it's okay. It's worth it.
It's just what's real for each of us is based on our knowledge, experience, and perspective. That's all. All right, everyone, go out and make it a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.